In the annals of criminal history, certain names stand out, leaving an indelible mark on society's collective memory. One such name is Jeffrey Dahmer. The chilling tale of this infamous serial killer sends shivers down the spine, revealing the darkest depths of the human psyche. Join us as we delve into the life and crimes of the man who forever altered our understanding of evil. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer, born on May 21, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, displayed no outward signs of the darkness that would consume his soul. He was, by all accounts, a seemingly ordinary child. However, a sinister transformation was taking place behind the normalcy facade. Childhood experiences often shape the adults we become, and for Dahmer, the early signs of deviance were apparent. As a young boy, he was known for his fascination with the macabre, often collecting and dissecting animal remains. Alas, these were mere harbingers of the horrors that lay ahead. As Dahmer entered his teenage years, his disturbing fantasies intensified. He struggled with his sexuality, grappling with a world that often rejected him. His desires took a dark turn, leading him down a path of depravity and destruction. In 1978, Dahmer graduated from high school and enrolled at Ohio State University. However, his time there was marred by alcohol abuse and an insatiable urge to act upon his darkest impulses. He dropped out of college and descended further into a world of darkness. It was in June 1978 when Dahmer committed his first murder. Hitchhiker Stephen Hicks became Dahmer's first victim, brutally bludgeoned to death before being dismembered. This act of savagery marked the beginning of a horrifying spree that would span over a decade. After his first murder, Dahmer moved back to Wisconsin, where he continued to give in to his sinister desires. He honed his methods, luring men into his apartment with promises of money or alcohol. But once inside, they would become trapped in his web of torture and death. Dahmer's modus operandi was chillingly efficient. He would drug his victims, rendering them unconscious before fulfilling his darkest fantasies. Some were strangled, while others met their end through more gruesome means. Dahmer would then dismember the bodies, often engaging in acts of necrophilia and cannibalism. The depths of Dahmer's depravity knew no bounds. His victims, often young men and boys, fell prey to his twisted desires. The remains of his atrocities concealed within the walls of his apartment, a grisly testament to the horrors he inflicted upon his unsuspecting victims. As the body count rose, the Milwaukee community became increasingly alarmed. Reports of missing young men sparked an intense investigation, but Dahmer was adept at eluding suspicion. His close encounters with law enforcement only served to embolden him, further fueling his insatiable appetite for death. It was on July 22, 1991, that Dahmer's reign of terror came to a halt. A potential victim, Tracy Edwards, managed to escape, leading police to discover the unspeakable horrors that lay within Dahmer's apartment. The subsequent investigation revealed the true extent of his atrocities. The trial of Jeffrey Dahmer gripped the nation as the world was exposed to the gruesome details of his crimes. Surviving victims, forensic experts, and law enforcement officials provided chilling testimonies, painting a picture of a man consumed by evil. In 1992, Dahmer was found guilty and sentenced to 16 life terms in prison. Incarcerated within the walls of Columbia Correctional Institution, Dahmer's monstrous legacy lived on. Interviews with fellow inmates and psychologists offered a glimpse into the mind of a killer, but no explanation could fully justify the atrocities committed by this disturbed individual. Dahmer himself, in moments of introspection, acknowledged the depths of his depravity. On November 28, 1994, the tale of Jeffrey Dahmer reached its final chapter. A fellow inmate, Christopher Scarver, took Dahmer's life, forever closing the book on a story that will forever haunt our collective consciousness. The name Jeffrey Dahmer has become synonymous with terror and the depths of human depravity. As we reflect upon the life and crimes of Jeffrey Dahmer, may we never forget the innocent lives he stole, the families forever shattered by his actions. From the depths of darkness and the chilling horrors of Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes, we now transition to a different realm, where the lines between good and evil become blurred. We step into the world of John Wayne Gacy. Gacy was an enigma, a study in contrasts. He was a respected business owner, a dedicated community leader, and a man who seemed to embody the American dream. But the man behind the affable persona was a far cry from the well-regarded figure he projected to the world. Gacy's alter ego was Pogo the Clown, a character that brought joy to countless children at local parties and community gatherings. Yet, behind the painted face and colorful suit, a dreadful secret was kept. This was the disguise of a man who was later to be known as one of America's most chilling serial killers. The 1970s were Gacy's decade of darkness. During this time, he committed a series of unthinkable crimes, systematically luring young boys and young men into his home under various guises. There, they were trapped, tortured, and ultimately killed, their young lives brutally snuffed out by a man who was supposed to represent safety and community. This reign of terror lasted 6 years, from 1972 to 1978, with Gacy claiming at least 33 victims. The magnitude of his atrocities remained concealed until December 1978, when the disappearance of 15-year-old Robert Piest led authorities to Gacy's doorstep. When investigators started to dig beneath the floorboards of Gacy's house, they unearthed a gruesome secret. The remains of Gacy's victims were entombed right under his home, hidden in the shadows of his sinister double life. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community, revealing the monster that had been lurking in their midst. In 1980, justice was finally served when Gacy was found guilty and sentenced to death. His execution in 1994 marked the end of a chapter that had haunted America for over 2 decades. But the specter of John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown, still serves as a grim reminder of the darkness that can lie beneath the surface of ordinary lives. Our journey takes us to the sun-soaked landscapes of California in the 1980s, a place known for its beauty and promise. But amidst its sprawling metropolises and peaceful suburbs, a dark shadow was cast, the shadow of a man who would come to be known as the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. Richard Ramirez was a figure of nightmares, a stark contrast to the California dream. A drifter from El Paso, Texas, Ramirez arrived in Los Angeles with deadly intent, forever changing the city's reputation as a paradise on the Pacific. From 1984 to 1985, Ramirez waged a reign of terror that held the city in an icy grip of fear. He was an indiscriminate predator, targeting the young and old, men and women alike. His methodology was unpredictable, his motives obscure, and his preferred time of operation the dead of night. Hence, he was aptly named the Night Stalker. His criminal signature was marked by sadistic brutality. His victims were subjected to unspeakable acts of violence. The methods varied, adding an element of chaos that only amplified the dread that gripped Southern California. The Night Stalker's rampage came to an end in August 1985. The capture was not by seasoned detectives or SWAT teams, but by a group of brave local residents who pursued and apprehended Ramirez when they recognized him from a police sketch. Once apprehended, Ramirez's trial became a media circus, his sneering demeanor and chilling lack of remorse leaving a lasting impact on all who saw it. In 1989, he was sentenced to death, though he spent the rest of his life in prison, dying from illness in 2013 before the sentence could be carried out. The chilling tale of the Night Stalker serves as a stark reminder of the potential for evil to lurk in the very shadows of our everyday lives. As we delve further into the psychology of these killers and the tragedies of their victims, we aim to shed light on these dark corners of humanity, understanding, and remembering the lives that were unjustly taken. We shift our gaze to the Pacific Northwest during the mid-1970s, where another malevolent shadow was beginning to cast its pall. This is the story of Ted Bundy, one of the most infamous serial killers in American history. Ted Bundy is a name that reverberates through the annals of American crime, a name that became synonymous with pure evil. On the surface, Bundy was charismatic, intelligent, and seemingly normal. However, beneath the facade of a law student with political ambitions, a monstrous personality lurked. From 1974 to 1978, Bundy embarked on a deadly campaign that spanned multiple states. His victims were primarily young and attractive women, their lives tragically cut short by a man who used his charm and good looks as lethal weapons. Bundy's modus operandi involved gaining his victims' trust, often feigning injury or disability, only to lead them to a secluded location where he would strike. The scale of Bundy's crimes is staggering, with the confirmed victim count standing at 30, though the real number could be much higher. His ability to evade capture, which included dramatic escapes from law enforcement, added an even more chilling layer to his legend. Bundy's reign of terror was brought to an end in 1978 when he was finally captured and brought to justice. His trial drew international attention due to his audacious decision to represent himself, putting his charm and intelligence on full display for the world to see. However, the mask could not hide the monster beneath, and Bundy was sentenced to death in 1980. He was executed in 1989, but the impact of his horrifying acts continues to echo in the collective consciousness. The saga of Ted Bundy serves as a chilling reminder that evil can reside behind the most unexpected of faces. As we explore the dark corners of human nature and pay tribute to the lives unjustly taken, we hope to shine a light on the shadows and understand the complexities of these horrific narratives. We cross another threshold into a story that spans decades and resonates with the stark horror of human cruelty. This is the harrowing narrative of Samuel Little, a man confirmed by the FBI as America's most prolific serial killer. Samuel Little was an enigma, a killer who managed to remain in the shadows while committing a staggering number of homicides. His story is one of a life lived on the fringes of society, where he preyed on those he believed the world would not miss. From the 1970s through 2005, Little left a bloody trail across multiple states. Unlike many killers who have a specific method, Little's victims were killed by a variety of means, making it harder for authorities to link the crimes. His victims were primarily marginalized women, their vulnerability making them the perfect targets for his cruel impulses. It wasn't until 2012 that justice began to catch up with Samuel Little. A DNA match led to his arrest, and from there, the horrifying extent of his crimes started to unravel. Little began confessing to his crimes, the number of victims growing with each chilling admission. Eventually, Little was linked to over 60 murders, but he claimed to have killed as many as 93. The FBI has verified over 50 of these, making Little the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole and died in prison in 2020. Samuel Little's horrifying story serves as a stark reminder of the darkness that can hide in the peripheries of our society. It also reminds us of the importance of protecting the vulnerable, whose lives and stories are no less important. As we continue to explore these narratives, we pay tribute to those lost, hoping to ensure their stories are remembered. We travel to the Pacific Northwest during the 1980s and 1990s, when another serial killer was casting a dark shadow over the region. This is the chilling story of Gary Ridgway, also known as the Green River Killer. Gary Ridgway is a name that echoes with chilling notoriety in the annals of American crime. A seemingly ordinary truck painter, Ridgway hid a monstrous persona beneath his everyday guise. He was a predator who hunted the vulnerable, exploiting their circumstances to satisfy his cruel impulses. From 1982 to 1998, Ridgway stalked the areas around the Green River in Washington state, leaving a grim trail of victims. His targets were primarily young women at the margins of society, runaways, and sex workers, whose disappearances often went unnoticed. Ridgway's method was one of cold calculation. He strangled his victims, leaving their bodies in clusters as morbid trophies of his horrific acts. It wasn't until 2001 that advancements in DNA technology led to Ridgway's arrest. Faced with the overwhelming evidence, Ridgway confessed to 49 murders, though he claimed the actual number was much higher. His confessions revealed a chilling lack of remorse, a stark reminder of the darkness that can reside within a human soul. Ridgway was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole, sparing him the death penalty in exchange for his cooperation in locating the remains of his victims. His story serves as a haunting reminder of the vulnerability of those at the fringes of society and the importance of advocating for their safety and dignity. If you've enjoyed watching these deep dives into the darker aspects of human history, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel. Together, we can continue to explore, remember, and strive for a world where such atrocities are a thing of the past. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Remember to take care of yourself and others, and keep an eye out for our upcoming episodes. Stay safe, stay informed, and see you in the next story.